A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us. This is Good Morning Africa. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and the show, of course, the television station is Punchline Africa TV, where we focus on bringing you what's happening in the continent. But on Good Morning Africa this morning, we shall be looking at the news-making headlines across Kenya. We look at the statistics in line with COVID-19. And then later on our topic of discussion, we shall look at one of the key pillars of President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda, and that is the universal healthcare. We see how far has President Uhuru Kenyatta gone in terms of, achieving this. What are some of the challenges perhaps that he could be facing, and so that this is very important, and I'm sure Kenyans would want to know what's really happening. And then we shall also get into the newspaper review this morning. A lot is happening. Of course, that bombshell from the CJ Maraga there has really, set, a whole circus in the political realm. Yesterday, we saw the Speaker of Parliament coming out and addressing, giving their position. There are some members of Parliament, majority of them the female. They're really supporting this move by the CJ, but a majority of them don't feel this is, this move by the CJ, this letter that he wrote to President Uhuru Kenyatta asking him to dissolve Parliament. There's a lot of them feel that it's a bit untimely, and also owing to the situation that we currently are as a country, the timing might be just a little bit off. So we have a lot to talk about. Let me know what you think of that. But before we get into all of that, let us bring ourselves up to date with what is happening in terms of the figures of COVID-19 there. And then I shall be joined later in the course of the show by the rest of the panelists there, and we will continue like that. We start with Kenya. And the confirmed cases this morning stands at 37,218. The death toll in the country is 659, and recoveries is 24,147 cases. And Uganda, there the figures are really going up. The cases right now stands at 6,712. The death toll is 64, and recoveries is 2,778. And we go to South Sudan, where confirmed cases is 2,660. Death toll is 49, recoveries is 1,290. I don't know in South Sudan, maybe there's something the government of South Sudan has done that is quite incredible in terms of controlling the spread of COVID-19, or are they even testing at all? Do they have the testing kits? Do they, what's happening there in South Sudan in terms of, the COVID-19? But we see that they've been able to maintain low numbers there since the first confirmed cases, and South Africa being the leading country in the continent in regards to the number of confirmed cases and even the death toll. The confirmed cases right now stands at 663,282 cases. The death toll is 16,118. Recoveries is 592,904. And then we look at the total cases across African continent. It's 1,413,323 cases, and the death toll in the continent is 34,570. Recovery so far is 1,161,658, and of course the global figures right now have topped 31,783,958, and the death toll is 975 and 975,472. And I'm sure these figures they keep changing because different countries keep submitting their updated figures. So in the next 20 minutes, you might be looking at something totally different from that. But that is where we are in regards to COVID-19 in the country. Kenya continues on the downward trajectory. At right now, our total number of confirmed cases is at 37,218. And of course, as I said there earlier, the death toll is 659, and recoveries right now stands at 24,147. All right. And I think because of that, we've seen the Ministry of Health come out, and now they've given a clear guideline on how the schools will open. So now let's just get into the newspapers this morning and look at what's making headlines across Kenya this morning and see what is really trending. All right. And on the Daily Nation, I think I'll look at it in line with COVID-19. The school timetable, before I get to the main headline there on the Daily Nation, and it says school timetable candidates report back on October 5th. And they say October reopening of schools will be in phases, ending 6 months of closure occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. In its final proposal to Cabinet Secretary George Magoha on Monday, the Education Response Committee on COVID-19 said learners should be in school from October 5th to 19th. Standard 8 and Form 4 learners will be the first to report since the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education and Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examinations takes place in April 2021. So we see there, and the Daily Nation is giving us here a breakdown. 143, those are the number of days Standard 8 pupils will have been out of school when they'll be resuming back to school on October 5th. And I can tell you, I have one of those in my house. I don't know, he's not quite thrilled about going back to school, which I don't understand, but there you go. So parents, you should get prepared and see make all the necessary arrangements. I know this caught a lot of parents off guard. A lot of them, I thought, the schools will reopen in January because that is where we start our education calendar in primary schools and in high schools. So we work with that. And so just resuming back, especially towards the end of the year, that was not something that the parents saw coming, they were expecting there. So a lot of them have been caught by surprise, but I'm sure perhaps that will be some ample time there for parents to prepare for your children, especially those who have candidates there, both in Standard 8, that is, who will be sitting for the last, examination for the primary school before they able to graduate and go to high school there. I'm sure, you should be able to prepare appropriately. So that story there. I see I'm joined by Karen. Karen, good morning. All right, as Karen works on that. Karen, a very good morning to you. All right, I think, can you hear me? Are you able to hear me? Okay, she's working on her network and then she'll come back. So that is where we are. So let me just get a bit of details on what is happening there, because initially the Minister of Education was not quite, the information that CS Magoha was just giving sometimes. So it's quite inconsistent. So it brought a lot of, I think, confusion. And that's why parents really were not expecting for the schools to be opened right now. Majority of them had resigned to the fact that, the schools will open, in January next year. But now here we are, and now it's clear. The Ministry of Education has made it clear, and they're saying the October reopening of schools will be in phases, as I've read there earlier, ending 6 months of closure. Now, its final proposal also Standard 8 and Form 4 learners will be the first to report since the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education and Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examinations takes place next year in April. And that goes against what we're used to, because the national examinations usually takes place from, I think, October to November, and the primary school, the primary school KCP usually takes place in November there. And so now it has been pushed to April. So I hope that a lot of learners, especially who will be sitting for these examinations, very important examinations, they will have enough time to recover the time that has been lost, and perhaps they will have to sort of adjust the timetable, maybe allow more time before home time, increase maybe 2 other lessons before home time, and perhaps they'll have even to bring in the weekend classes on Saturdays. The Ministry of Education had banned tuition because a lot of schools had used this, to get a lot of money from parents. And so in the new curriculum, I think, just a couple of years ago, that was changed. So the weekend tuition was banned. That was to allow also our children just time to be children, learn throughout the week, but when it's over the weekend, you can go out there and play and just be a child. So that was banned. So maybe those are just some of the ways that the Ministry of Education could consider, so that they can be able to make up for the lost time. Karen, a very good morning to you. All right. Maybe you could come check Karen's audio there. Maybe she's not able to hear me, or I don't know what's happening from her side there, as she's meant to be joining. So, and now the phases will ensure schools learn to manage the students while implementing the COVID-19 health protocols. The task force has said it will also allow the government to deliver 360,000 desks to 5,136 primary schools and 263,157 lockers and chairs to 5,254 secondary schools made under the economic stimulus program. I think that will go a long way in helping a lot of schools which did not have these facilities. So I think that is a good move there to boost our economics, our education sector that has been hit, especially for the private schools. A lot of schools have faced closures. So I think as much as we are worried about all these other things, but I think it will be a reprieve for them as well, because a lot of schools were facing a lot of troubles and a lot of them have closed down. Karen, a very good morning to you.
Good.
Okay, so we seem to be having a problem there. But if you can come through the audio, I think that would be nice. Since we seem to be having a problem there with that. Ina Hassan, good morning, and Karibu Sana. Okay, good morning, Karen. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, Miriam. How are you?
I'm very fine, thank you. How is Malindi this morning?
It's raining, but we're doing well here. How is Nairobi, Miriam?
Nairobi is fantastic. The weather is good, just the way I like it. Not too much sunshine and not cold. Just the moderate. I think I'm that kind of a person. So the heat in the coast of Kenya sometimes is just too much for me. But I know even if it's raining there in Malindi, it's still warm. That I know for sure.
Very true. I'm sorry, my signal is very faint today, but you'll bear with me.
All right, now it's okay. We can hear you, so it's all good. So now we were looking at, Professor Magoha, under the Ministry of Education. They've been quite consistent there with the information they've been giving out in terms of schools reopening. But now we see yesterday they gave out a clear map on how they expect the schools to be reopened, and they say the candidates, KCPE and KCSE candidates, should be able to resume starting the 5th of October. Is this a good move? You're a teacher, so this is something that is closer home. All right, with the signal there seems to be really terrible, but I think we will just move on. When you're able to get to me, Karen, you let me know. Can you hear me? All right, very well. So we go to the main story on the Daily Nation. Front pages there. Can Uhuru save the day at crossroads faced with limited options following Chief Justice David Maraga's advice to dissolve Parliament over the 2/3 gender rule? President Kenyatta must now do the right thing by the Constitution and by Kenyans. I don't know what the Daily Nation is saying about this. Let's just go and read that story on page 4 and find out more information. I think nobody ever saw this coming, and quite interesting because this is a conversation that we've had here time and time again, even as we look at the BBI and some of the suggestions that have been put forth, and that perhaps the team was collected the information they collected from Kenyans and some of the things Kenyans thought that should they needed to be changed. But we always wondered, and I think I've always raised my concern, this 2/3 gender rule, it is something that perhaps Parliament, as much as when we look at our existing, structures in the country and how we vote and who we are, the community that we are, this is just one of those things that was, impossible to achieve right now. But what really struck us every time we talked about this is the fact that Parliament really, or nobody was really addressing this matter because it is in the law, all right? So a couple of times we've said before, even if President Uhuru Kenyatta would not be faced with this challenge to deal with right now in his tenure, but it still posed a problem to the next government. But now, unfortunately, it has fallen right into President Uhuru Kenyatta's court, and now it is something that he has to grapple with after that letter from the Chief Justice. So with Parliament yesterday announcing its plan to seek judicial interpretation of Justice Maraga's advisory note, which they describe as ill-advised, premature and unconstitutional. And this is the same Parliament that every time this bill was brought there, I think about 5 times, there was no quorum, they never showed up, they never came to argue their position. I remember Aiden Duale so many times, he's the one who's leading this bill. I think was he the sponsor of this bill, but he was the government majority leader there in Parliament. So a lot of times there was no quorum in Parliament. So even parliamentarians themselves, they didn't even think this was something important that they actually needed to talk about in a very sober-minded, level-headed, way to say, well, the situation is, and the reality is, this is not achievable in Kenya, but since it's not, and it's part of the law, so how are we able to address this so that it does not pose a constitutional crisis as it is? Well, I don't know if you're there yet, but it is a serious problem right now that, President Uhuru Kenyatta has to deal with. Parliament never took this very seriously. 5 times this bill was voted in Parliament, but there was no quorum. I think all those times, a majority of that time. And so now they're coming in and they're saying it is ill-advised, premature and unconstitutional. And I think Mr. Kenyatta has the first option of asking Attorney General Kihara Kariuki to seek the High Court's view on the import of the advice. The court legal experts told the nation will explain that the petition means and also answer questions raised about the constitutional crisis that will be precipitated by dissolution of Parliament. At this point, the President's option is to go to the High Court to seek a stay order of the Chief Justice's advice as they seek an interpretation of the advice. Senior Counsel Nzamba Kitonga said, in the absence of that, the President's hands are tied to dissolve Parliament as advised by the CJ and as dictated by the Constitution, which has the mandatory provision that he shall do so once such an advice has been given. Dr. Wamuti Ndegwa, a law scholar at the University of Nairobi, said Mr. Kenyatta can also exploit Article 216, Sub-Article 7 of the Constitution, which does not bind him to a particular timeline within which to act, and Article 10, which requires public participation. So I think those could be the two things that perhaps could give President Uhuru Kenyatta there I think some way out of this quagmire right now, because there's no time frame even in our constitution, and I heard a lot of parliamentarians arguing like that since the time CJ wrote this, and they say there's no timeline that requires that President Uhuru Kenyatta is mandated to work within a given timeline to enable to have this take place, and so perhaps they could use that, as they say there, Article 216, Sub-Article 7 there of the Kenyan Constitution. So let's just see how this will work out. So the option, CJ's advisory note, causes uproar here. In a nutshell, according to Senior Counsel Nzamba Gitonga, the President can go to the High Court to seek a stay order to the CJ's advisory to dissolve Parliament. That is one option President Uhuru Kenyatta has, according to the Daily Nation. And also option 2, Mr. Kenyatta can also use Article 216, Sub-Article 7, as I have said there, which does not bind him to a particular time frame to bid his time. And also the third option the President Uhuru Kenyatta has is the President can also subject the proposal to public participation as provided for under Article 10. With public participation, does that mean a referendum, or what does that even mean? Ina Hassan, what does that mean? And the other option, option 4, it means that finally he can dissolve Parliament as advised. I think that will be the last resort. I mean, can you imagine Parliament being dissolved right now? I think a section of politicians in this country, I think, will be happy to have that. I don't know if that will mean that President Uhuru Kenyatta's presidency will be cut short, or will he be allowed to go and run again since he did not complete his term? I don't know. So it's quite something, and let's just see how that will work out. Of course, the Attorney General has also said yesterday, as we were talking about this, went to the High Court there so that the CJ can give an interpretation on what this means. Karen Josephs, good morning. All right.
Good morning.
Yes, are you able
Good
to hear me
morning.
now?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Uh, I agree totally. The fourth option of dissolving parliament shouldn't be the case. I think it should come last. And going to the High Court as well is something that I wouldn't advise him to do, because these are the same people he's going to meet at the court. And Dr. Matanga said yesterday, they are prepared. So it's also not a good option. Now, going by option two, I think option three would just be subjecting to public participation. But the three, no. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So there's another story also on page 5 of the Daily Nation there that I think might give us just a little bit of perspective on what politicians and analysts now say. And it says politicians and analysts say the advisory to dissolve parliament will influence the planned constitutional reforms and the 2022 succession politics, irrespective of the decision of President Uhuru Kenyatta takes. Now, most believe Mr. Kenyatta will not dissolve Parliament for failing to enact the two-thirds gender rule, as per Chief Justice David Maraga's advice. So everybody thinks the fourth option there, Karen, as you have said, that is not even something that is on the table there for President Uhuru Kenyatta. And so what if it just surprises us? I don't know. But they argue with the dissolution hanging on the heads of MPs, the president can now soften resistance in his high-stakes agenda, like the Building Bridges Initiative bills. Should he take the extreme option and precipitate a mini general election, it would present the ultimate showdown with his deputy William Ruto, as most of the latter's allies will probably run on a new party. All right, now that is also now another political dynamic being introduced there. Now, the premature elections, however, will be a risky gamble, as it could backfire and the president a lame duck. Were Mr. Kenyatta to orchestrate the defeat of Rebel Justice Jubilee lawmakers, particularly from his Mount Kenya backyard, he would stamp his authority and leave DP Ruto mortally wounded politically. So that is just, the matrix there when it comes to the succession politics, and perhaps what a mini general election would mean in terms of political might, I guess, in the country. So there you go. That is on page 5 of the Daily Nation. All right, so we go to the Standard newspaper there. Restless 416 MPs. That is what is making the headlines this morning. Saying under siege, jittery legislators fight back and trade blame on floor of the House over Maraga's advice to send them home over gender rule. Furious parliamentary leadership falls advisory and attacks the Chief Justice. And then Speaker Muturi-led PSC resolves to move to court to block dissolution. So now, they really didn't think this might even happen, we thought, because this has been on siege as, the Chief Justice's office. This has been sitting there for a while, and, they had 5 opportunities to find a way forward. But nobody ever took this very seriously, because I remember, even when we were talking about this sometimes back, just a few weeks ago, and the response that the Speaker of the House, Justin Muturi, had given in regards to the gender rule was quite a by the way. They really didn't think, like, the CJ can't do that. Nobody expected that the CJ would pull, Karen, from where you sit, do you think maybe the Chief Justice, owing to the relationship that he's been having with the executive there, maybe do you think he was pulling a gotcha moment, or was he trying to make a statement, or is he just trying to follow the Constitution?
Apart from him following the Constitution, I think this whole saga is... We say there's the involvement of external forces from somewhere. So apart from him following the Constitution, which is very clear because it's there, so it could be one of the reasons. But there's more to it, Miriam. It's just not going by the Constitution. So there's more to it. There's more to it because he's been there for all that while. But why is he bringing it right now? There's something behind him bringing it right now. Apart from the Constitution, it is so much deeper than we think.
All right, very well. And there's a story on page 4 of the we're not even on Sunday Standard. We're on Tuesday. Why am I even talking about Sunday? On the Standard this morning on page 4. So, here by Kibe Mungai. And he's saying obeying CJ call will turn us into a laughing stock. Recommendation by Chief Justice David Maraga to President Uhuru Kenyatta to dissolve Parliament on account of the alleged failure by the House to enact a legislation to implement the two-thirds gender rule has caused a palpable despondency and raised concerns that the recommendation pushes the country on the path of a needless constitutional crisis. Now, this momentous decision requires the president to respond in a manner that protects Kenya's constitutional order, given that he took an oath of allegiance to obey, preserve, and protect and defend the Constitution of Kenya, all right? And to protect and uphold the sovereignty, integrity, and dignity of the people of Kenya. All right, very well. Now, at a general level, it is my view that is by this writer, Kibe Mungai. He's saying it is my view that Kenya will be a laughingstock in the community of serious democracies if Uhuru were to abide by recommendations to dissolve Parliament duly constituted with elected representatives of the people merely because political parties have not nominated 100 more women to satisfy the political preferences of female gender lobbyists and 21st century liberal. Okay, now he's just taking it to another level. But I do understand what he's trying to say here, Karen. He's saying all these elected leaders we have in Parliament, Kenyans elected them, all right? According to the Constitution, Kenyans elected these leaders. So you cannot now hold a Parliament to account as to why we don't have two-thirds gender. The two-thirds gender rule has not been met because Kenyans decided they don't want that. Otherwise, they would have elected, yes.
Yes, it's Kenyans who made the decision, so you cannot blame them, and that's why we said yesterday. With Kenyans, we are not, culturally they still have their own beliefs. If you're to present a man and a woman to them, they will still go for the man, and it's not their fault. This, it takes time before it's a gradual process. By the time people get to accept that women can take leadership.
Mm-hmm. All right, there. I see Professor Nyari is waiting to join us.
The right to pick whom they want. And I think, they should not be blamed for picking men. It's not their fault. It's what we live in a culture, the community we're in. It will take time before we get there. So we should not, there's no need of us bringing this inconvenience, I'll call it an inconvenience, of an article that is so unpractical. It's so unpractical. It's not, in the real situation, it's just not, it's just not achievable, right? Let me just say that.
Mm-hmm. Very well, thank you.
And the earlier more that, the better.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you so much, Professor. Have you been able to join there? Good morning.
Morning, madam.
How are you today?
One.
Professor is enjoying his breakfast there. I'm jealous because after this I'll go have a breakfast. But we were looking at one of our pieces here written by Kibe Mungai, and sort of is trying to bring the perspective that we actually could be blaming Parliament for something that is beyond them, because the member of Parliament that are in Parliament today, Kenyans elected them, and if Kenyans felt they needed more women in Parliament, they would have elected them. But Kenyans apparently don't need that many women in Parliament, or don't see the necessity of having this two-thirds gender rule met, because it's up to Kenyans to elect the leaders how they want to elect them. So by holding Parliament to account as to why they did not able to pass this law or make this happen, seems to be unfair, because it's not something in their control. Kenyans get to elect the leaders they want. Is it unfair to blame Parliament on this one, even though they failed to pass the bill 5 times?
Miriam, before we voted 2010 Constitution, I read every word, every letter, every comma, every full stop, and even where there were some errors I was able to detect. Mm-hmm. You wonder where were Kenyans, where were their heads when they were passing Article 27(8) and Article 97 of the Kenyan Constitution, Miriam. Mm-hmm. If you want to threaten members of Parliament that they are fair to do this, they will walk to Parliament today, first reading, second reading, third reading, and Miriam, they will pass a constitution and they will say that in an event 2/3 eighth agenda is not realized in any election, the remainder of the number should be nominated. Is that what you want to do? Miriam, we have had a very perfect opportunity now that we have seen what works in that constitution and what doesn't work. Now, what we need to do, whether Kenyans are very conscious, is to put it in a referendum. Do you want to have elected positions, or you want to remove it altogether? And we proceed to affirmative action so that we can be able to increase the 47 county representative for women rep, so that we make it 94 and then we will be safe. So, Miriam, a lot of wisdom is needed here.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying we double?
We are blaming Parliament for no reason, Miriam.
Professor, you're saying we double the number of elected women representatives. But why do we just need these women, or maybe either gender? Because maybe at some point, as
no.
Professor, you've kept saying here, even sometimes in the near future we'll see perhaps men.
I'm one man who is a feminist.
Yes.
You need to also to be proud. In fact, Miriam, when you talk about a third, I am on 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
That's my stand.
Okay.
That this and that we work together, because as a society which does not embrace all members of the society,
yes,
you don't go far. Mm-hmm. You don't discriminate.
But Professor, do we just need these women for the sake of meeting this constitutional threshold, or
have you heard what I've said?
What is happening here?
You cannot force people to erect, but if you do what I'm trying to say,
yes,
that we know this for women, they can compete and they can be erected, yes, on that sphere. Mm-hmm. But as Article 27(8), Miriam, on elected positions, you cannot subject. You know the Constitution gives people the Bill of Rights, mm-hmm, the political rights to elect leaders of their own choice. But when you argue them, you say them, you have to elect this gender, Miriam, you will be contravening in that. And what we need to do, Miriam, is that we need to have a conversation. We need to have a discussion. This is our country. Like Miriam, since the Chief Justice made this decision, I've been wondering, Miriam, where has he been? What has changed, Miriam? He knew 2017, when we had elections, that we did not comply with 2/3. Yes. What was he waiting? That is, it was during that point. He does not wait. When he's having 16 weeks for his retirement, and then you do that one. Perhaps we see that he's having some hunger, and we know very well, Miriam, his relationship with the executive has not been good.
Has been very frosty, to say the least.
So this one, I don't really understand, but we need to be sober. Mm-hmm. It has happened. Here we have a problem. We need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Does the president need to send the Parliament home or not? But he has to look at the greater good of the country, public interest. Even the Chief Justice himself, he has already sat down the judiciary simply because of COVID. They do things through Zoom. Mm-hmm. That's most of the cases. So are we going to elect our members through Zoom? Mm-hmm. Even that same members of Parliament, Miriam, they are the ones who are going to pass supplementary estimates, budget, so that they give IPC money to go and cut that by election. Mm-hmm. So Miriam, we are in catch-22, but by the grace of God, we'll come out of this. But the Chief Justice, to me, and from where I stand, even if I get from his face, I will say that thank you for being fidel to the law, but wisdom you lack.
Okay. And also, Professor, I don't know if I could be wrong or right. I don't know. Should President Uhuru Kenyatta go ahead and heed to this advice by the Chief Justice and dissolve Parliament because it is illegally constituted? Will that not nullify any other business, any bills, anything that has been passed in Parliament since the new constitution? That will nullify everything.
It goes through. If you do something, mm-hmm, in office and you were illegally in office, what you did is an illegality. Okay. In fact, even himself, let me tell you, Miriam, even the Chief Justice in office illegally. He was fettered by Parliament, which was
illegally constituted
by the Constitution.
Look at that.
So you can't have your cake and eat it.
Mm-hmm. And
So
something that
I know. Towards your last days on earth, Miriam, if people don't treat you well, you can even curse. We have had people cursing their children, and what the Chief Justice has done has cursed this nation.
So you've mentioned there
that he was not being treated well when he was in office.
15. He has 15 weeks before he retires. So do you think
Yes,
this
you
is
can't do that one, Miriam.
perhaps he was waiting and he it's a moment he perhaps wants to show president. You know the way you say I'll show you. Could this be one of those moments, maybe from the Chief Justice? I don't want to think he's that petty, but
Yes, Miriam. Miriam, let me tell you. President Uhuru Kenyatta is also having is it 23 months? It goes on.
thereabouts.
What is he going to lose? He has made history. His father was the first president of this country. He has also become a president. In fact, it's done. In fact, it is us to treat President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta well and support him so that he serves us. There's nothing you want to do with him. He will retire, he will go home, you will pay him pension. But that's not what he wants to do for the country. He has some dreams, that's why he went for that office. So Miriam, the country is bigger than all of us. And I always say, Miriam, at some point in time, we will exit, Kenya will remain. And what the Chief Justice has done has entered in the history of books. Many years when we are all gone, our children will come and ask, surely, what made the Chief Justice to make this kind of this one to the country? Miriam, a pandemic like Corona, we are at war. You can't dissolve Parliament when we are at war, and sometimes it needs to make some decision to make us move. Miriam, hear this. What will happen if the second wave of Corona comes back? And you have sent your members of Parliament home?
All right, there. So that is where we are left there. And still on the front pages of the Standard newspaper, the up there says bombshell, big three go mute, ons of dilemma. It says top political leaders unite in silence over Chief Justice Maraga's advice to President Uhuru Kenyatta to dissolve Parliament for failure to enact two-thirds gender rule. What options for them? So that I see the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, President Uhuru Kenyatta, and DP Ruto there. Apparently, they've not commented since since the CJ made this pronouncement there. Are they strategizing, or they were caught flat-footed, or they're just confused? They don't know which way forward.
That's wisdom.
Okay.
That's
Sometimes silence is the best
when you
way to
don't
respond.
have a good answer, Miriam, you keep quiet. And when you keep quiet, nobody will judge you. The Prime Minister and the President and the Deputy President here, they have restrained themselves. And that's what I call Miriam wisdom.
Okay.
Let us, the foot soldiers, let us the systems converse. They converse, they give all the ideas. Imagine, Miriam, of all the Kenyans, what we have said. The Prime Minister, the Deputy President, and the President. We repeat. I liked what Musalia Mudavadi said yesterday. He was very categorical. He said the Chief Justice legally, you are wrong, you are right, but with wisdom you failed. You don't do that one, Miriam, in a situation like this. I stand and I've said I'll tell him on his face. The law was meant to serve us, not us to serve the law.
Yes.
Miriam, are we dead now that we don't have two-thirds of that gender rule? As the country stopped, now that he has advised the president to dissolve the parliament. Do you know the implication? Do you know the meaning? What that one means, Miriam? When are we going even to deal with the register? You know, IBC is in limbo. So it is really very disappointing, and that's why you can see the Prime Minister and the President and the Deputy President have got nothing to say.
All right, very well. Thank you, Doctor. Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. First of all, I've been listening to your conversation. And I thank you very much for the contribution, Professor Onyali and Karen from Malindi, very sharp. I just want to say, which Chief Justice are you talking about? Are you talking about this madman? This is a madman. He's a lonely madman. A stupid madman. I don't know why you waste our power only to tell the truth in the world. He's a madman. Look at the complications that you are talking about. You cannot, even if you go for elections, you need an electoral commission. It doesn't exist in Kenya. Okay. Even if you do a scientific election of 2/3 gender, you will need 149 women. Have you calculated them? And we now, Miriam, I'm talking to you. I hope you are picking the words that I'm talking, because I've been listening from the background. We are, that's not rumble. This is a straightforward issue of sabotage. This is a man who is out to kill this country. This man wants to cause a problem in this country. Look at all imagine all of these things. The scenario, Miriam, you brought in very nicely. 4 of them, which people are rambling about. All the scenario 4 that you have seen, Karen talked about all of them, then she said, she doesn't even know. She said, no, the other one, it cannot happen. There is one thing we cannot accept. We people who love Uhuru Kenyatta, we are not going to accept, 1, to dissolve the parliament. 2, friends of Uhuru Kenyatta are now saying it. You want us to do that? We are bringing back our uniforms. We campaigned for Uhuru Kenyatta. And let some people here now that we shall defeat Maraga. After defeating him, we shall put him in jail. Let it be him. Let him know. Because everything that Maraga is doing, Maraga is not doing it alone. Maraga has a wider group, a bigger mafia boss. Hakuna mambo ya kupembeleshana leo. Mnapembeleshana, mnaharibu nchi. If we don't talk about this thing, this country is going down. The man has put us in a state of Quagmire. A Quagmire state. Okay, you want to dissolve the parliament. How will the judges get the money? Where is your retirement coming from? Who will give you your retirement package? The parliament, isn't it? So, are you mad? Maraga is just mad. He's an idiot. That's it. There is nothing, no good words. I'm sorry. If somebody calls you an idiot, it doesn't mean he's insulted you. It means you don't have enough brains, no doctrine of law. He doesn't have a doctrine of law. But Maraga is not operating alone. Maraga is not operating alone. Listen to what Harvey has just posted 1 hour ago. Look at what Nelson Harvey has posted 1 hour ago. We must bring a narrative, Professor. Stop. For you and I, we have seen violence. 2007 you saw. You yourself, you are affected. I have seen a bigger violence. Wacha kuzungumiza huko in parables. Wacha kutukuje direct. There is a wider scheme in this Kenya to torpedo the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. It is already well organized by Nelson Harvey. Nelson Harvey says he will march with people to parliament. He has just said now. So should we lose focus? Let's not lose focus on a stupid lunatic. A lunatic who has decided to bring the country to a brink of war. There is no leader in this country. You are talking of the deputy president. Who are you talking about? Where's the scheme coming from? Where were Jana? Nyinyi msiambie watu wrong things. The scheme is coming from Ruto. Yes. Tuambiane ukweli wenye. Stop lying to people. 2 days after Ageyo, I have a brain that researches. This one here, Ruto can kill it if he wants, because he's fond of doing things against other people who talk facts. Nyenye. 2 days after Ageyo interviewed Ruto, can you play that clip? I got a clip for you, production team. Play it under here. Ageyo asked Ruto, Deputy President Ruto, alimuuliza, what is it that you are in the remaining year that you are worried about? He said he's very worried about two-third gender. Didn't he say that? Didn't you hear it all of us? Everybody in Kenya, didn't you hear? Huyu ndiye mtu who has planned all this. Let him not tell Uhuru is a friend. He is not a friend of Uhuru. Tuambiane ukweli. Tuambiane ukweli. That's why I've come back. I was listening, going to back up my contacts on a phone. My phone crashed, but I have contacts stored somewhere to back it up. But when I saw that I needed to clarify certain things, which will touch in the second topic, a wider scheme, Miriam, a wider scheme is in here, is in this country. It is not only Maraga. Who pays Maraga? Where was Maraga going? Maraga has been meeting Deputy President several times. Why can't we talk the truth? Munangojea tena Okampo akuje hapa. Ofatu Bensouda ndio tuanze kumamangaika. No. This thing is being planned very properly by Machiavellian politics. Zungumiza namna hivi ende kwa Jubilee headquarters, pretend to be a very good. There is a Machiavelli here. Nikolai Machiavelli. International ILDO, ILDO. Do you know it? Who owns it? Who owns it? Professor, who owns ILDO? The one that sponsors, that gave Maraga a ticket after nullifying elections in 2017. Kenyans insult me when I say George Soros. They don't even know English of George Soros. George Soros is a bad man. It is George Soros organization that gave Mr. Maraga a ticket. It gave Maraga a ticket. The same organization gave Makau Mutua a ticket. The same organization gave 5 members of the Kenyan NGO tickets, paid their accommodation. Immediately when they had nullified that election, They flew out on KLM 2451 Nairobi to Schiphol Airport, Amsterdam, connected to Hungary by another flight. Details. I'm going to bring all this for you. Their hotel rooms, the names, the bills. Who paid the bills? George Soros. People in Kenya all the time think I tell these lies. No. I don't come on here and tell when I don't have evidence. Maraga, who was in Hungary that met Maraga? The executive director of George Soros. Maraga has never come out to tell Kenyans why immediately after nullification of an election, he flew out of this country to go and receive a prize. How much was the prize? How much? If he's a genuine Chief Justice, can he come out and say how much he received? Because we had been giving him that little respect. Now there's no respect anymore. Because Miriam read 4, you read 4 categories. You can repeat them now. Mm-hmm. Which one? 1, 2 options. Option 1, option 2, option 3. Whichever way. Karen Josephs from Malindi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Doctor.
Yes, whichever way, Professor, you want to go through those options. Do you know the end word? The end word of those options is called chaos. Look at it. If you dissolve the parliament now and put a referendum, who is going to supervise the referendum? Okay, if you don't dissolve the parliament, the only good option left there, don't dissolve the parliament. Use the parliament to dissolve Maraga. Cut short 16 weeks. Cut them short. Mr. President, don't go to interpretation of what? The same judges are going to tell you. The only judge there who will be with you is Choki. The rest of them will tell you. Maraga has spoiled the Supreme Court. He killed the Supreme Court. The deputy judge, that is the one who doesn't even like Kenyatta at all. So, if Maraga is going to sit in the 16 weeks, Maraga is still there, then the Attorney General is saying is going to the court for interpretation. What interpretation is there left? Mr. Attorney General Kihara, me, I'm about to disagree with some people openly and wash my hands. What interpretation do you want? There's no the interpretation here is chaos. The only thing to tell President Uhuru Kenyatta is politically, Your Excellency, stand up, take the bull by the horns, use strategies that will come. You are going to be given, you have good strategies. They are there. Use them to silence dissent, which is within Jubilee first. Then move. Use the same parliament. Dismantle Maraga. Lock him up. With the, yes, a lot of corruption in that court will lead to a sentence. The Nakuru motor accident leads to fraud. In Nakuru, I've already talked to the man whose car was knocked. You think I've been keeping quiet doing what? Wacha tulete mtu hii. This is a fraudulent guy that you are calling a Chief Justice. This is a fraud. Unashikwa, you are driving the car, then you say you had bodyguards who were not even injured. Is that a man who can be a Chief Justice of this country? We have been keeping quiet. We thought there was some sense, that this guy had some sense. Mtu mwenye gari aligonga, tuko naye. Mr. Maraga, we are playing you now. We are gonna play in weeks to come. He won't die. He is not dead. People have contacted him. You know, the social media is not very bad. You have forgotten, people have your videos when you got out of the car. You wanted to beat the owner of the car, whom you had actually knocked. It is you who knocked the guy from behind. You claim to be a Chief Justice, you hide such an accident. You tell lies that you had bodyguards. Who were the bodyguards? Where were they treated? What treatment? What injury? Where are the injuries? Who are the doctors who treated them? Wachana! Wewe terere. Watch. If you thought you are going to attack Uhuru Kenyatta, who is going to keep quiet, he can keep quiet. But for us, tuko na wewe. We kuja kwa television uambie watu ndio bodyguard na driver yako walikuwa wanaendesha gari hiyo. Tunataka urudie hiyo. Waambie watu your driver and the bodyguard were in the car. They were not injured. They didn't break their necks. And it is only you and your wife who broke the neck. Tunakushika. Leo wacha bombshell ikuje nyeni. That is not a Chief Justice, a liar who lies on oath. What type of example shall we learn from him? He wants to spoil people's legacy. Anataka kuharibia watu legacy. Yake yende nyumbani akae, akule pesa za George Soros. Wewe tuambie kuja kwa television useme we are telling lies. My bodyguards were treated by Dr. So and so. The injuries. Sindio sisi were journalists. They should come also show their injuries. Open the hand. Sindio Mudiam, namna hivi. It's a hand. I was injured here. We wanted the facts now. Ndio ujue that you poked your nose in a beehive. Sasa ndio hiyo. Tunaanza, that's one stage. There's another thing which you didn't know now. Those are two things. In Hungary, when you left Hungary and again to Lithuania, who accompanied you? Who met you that morning? The video is also available. Kuna mambo ya kuja tuzungumize rounding up that we are talking about the Chief Justice in Nani huyu. Wacha tuseme the local thief of the town. The scheme is wider, medium. That is all my point. Prof, stick there. Stick to that. The wider scheme. Mzee yangu, sukuma hapo kwa wider scheme. Utapata scheme, utaona it falls in place. If If Harvey can say he will march to Parliament, it means they are desperate people. If Harvey can say Wahome, and he has mentioned Wahome, the woman of Muranga, what is her name?
Alice Wahome.
Alice Wahome will resign, and there is another one. Miriam, you have just read Harvey's what? That they will resign. There are several MPs who will resign. It was well coordinated. Have you seen? Why didn't he say an MP who is in favor of President Uhuru Kenyatta will resign? And then you think this is a joke? It's not a joke. They have calculated it very seriously. So I would like us to stick on a wider scheme. Let's look for a wider scheme. Are there internal traitors here who are helping George Soros? George Soros has paid his money. We have internal schemers here. Have you seen? There is no leader who loves Kenya. I want to thank, for the first time, Musalia Mudavadi. Well done, Papa. Well done. You stood up. I want for the first time, thank Moses Wetangula. Well done. You have stood. I want for the first time, thank Makau Mutua, my nemesis. Well done. I want for the first time, thank Grandimura Abdel Nasir. We disagree totally. He calls me a Ugandan import. I call him a pirate. He's a pirate. He's the head of the pirates. I am a head of Ugandan import cows. That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Abdel Nasir. But for the first time, you spoke as a man who knows law. I want to thank Cheriot, the senator of Kericho. Thank you for standing and don't reverse your gear. Those are the people who have come out, who know law, who know Kenya, who have a nation at heart. And they have distanced themselves from Mr. Maraga's stupid utterances. This is a war. We're in a state of a war. It is shameful for somebody who is in a state of a war to call for the same government that has troops fighting war of COVID-19, a pandemic that we have not overrun. To say dismantle the institutions where the soldiers will be paid their salaries. How will the soldiers be paid to fight? Maraga can have the legal part of it. He's obligated by the Constitution. But who elected Maraga? Who put Maraga, screened him and gave him the job? When he received that job, didn't he know that he was being screened by a parliament that did not have 2/3? Where in Africa can you force women? Is Maraga forcing men for us to turn into women? Or MPs to transcend into women? What is wrong with Maraga? The actions show three things. As I go, I leave you people to battle it out. One, Maraga suffers from loneliness. Omuntu talina wayogera naye. Muntu mufu talina wayogera naye. Yagwamu. I think the Kisiman is picked something there.
Ana mtu wa kumwongeleza.
Aha! This man lacks. There is something wrong with Maraga. Loneliness. I studied psychology. In Britain, I go to to police stations to assess together with the police criminals who have been brought in. So I have an experience of assessment. When they put you in a window glass for display, the way you touch your eyes, the way you are looking at the camera, I write the pages and I say, that one suffers from theft. That one suffers from loneliness. That one could be a rapist. We are taught these things. The courses are there in Britain. You can go for short course of 6 months. You have your certificate. Well, they even give you an exam which is harder than even the exams of the entire country, like Kenya or Uganda. For a certificate, the exam is harder. So Maraga suffers from loneliness. Point number 2, Maraga suffers from a mafia boss who wants his results. He's a man on the diminishing return point. There is a mafia saying, if you don't give us our results, we want our money back. There's that serious possibility. Look at that, Miriam. There is a possibility. The last one is paranoia. Maraga suffers from anger. He has anger management. He doesn't have anger management. He needs lessons to manage his anger. If he cures these 3 things, he will have a very good retirement. Less than that, guess what? It could lead to suicide. Maraga is a suicide case. You know, loneliness alone can push you to suicide. Kama una kitu, unaona unaenda miaka 70. I don't want to go beyond that. But you can guess. Look at Mugabe. Mugabe married Amai's Grace Mugabe when he was at the age of 80 or something like 70. And he had a very good life. Some of us who went to the wedding, when we looked at Amai coming, I was on the wedding, by the way, Miriam. Thank you very much. I was on that wedding. David Matanga. I was on the wedding and I sat near Emerson Mnangagwa because by then he was the Speaker of Parliament. So he took me from the delegation of the Parliament, and the President Mugabe had invited 2 of us. So when they came on, to show us, to meet us after those ceremonies, I tackled Emerson like this. Hello. Hey, Baba. Hey, Baba. It's very, hey, Baba. Yeah. There are things that I don't want to annoy Miriam this morning. Hey, when an African is doing on the what? You know what it means. I said, what? I said, here in Zimbabwe, and listen what I said to Emerson. The that here in Zimbabwe, you are going to have lots of very rough time. Then Emerson said, what do you mean? This lady is too young for Mama Muse. She's going to cause us a problem. Actually, jokingly said, nah, Dr. Masanga, oh no. Huh? The old man. Then I asked him, Emerson, why have you not married? I'm now telling you this. We exchanged a few good words there. I said, let's leave it. It did not take 1 month. It only took 6 months in the marriage, the first casualty. The first casualty was a gentleman by name Makamba. He fled for his life. Because Makamba was seated near us. So I found Makamba in South Africa and asked him, do you remember when I told you that your eyes were so much fixed? The lady was greeting us, but you had fixed the eyes on the head. And I warned you that you know this lady. You said, you know. Now you have been sent away by Muse. Because Muse had fatality. Muse sent police, special branch, to fata gari ya mama alikuwa anasema anaenda sokoni. Alipata mzee, mama aliingia, walileta report anasema na kina nani? Na X. Usiku yake 200 policemen surrounded the farm. Luckily enough, the guy had that he was not in the house. He never went back to the farm. He's still alive. His son was the first man who died of COVID-19 in Zimbabwe. So this story that I'm telling you is real. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We are way past our time, but I could perhaps read quickly our topic that we did not get a chance to look at.
I am going.
Yes.
So you can enjoy the rest of the show.
We'll take a break and then come back with the other show. But I'd
like
us.
I felt I should tell you.
Yes. Thank you.
You were doing very well.
Yes.
When you are hitting the points, and then you went back. So me, I came to hit the points.
Absolutely.
Then take it from there.
Thank you.
I saw even Professor was beginning to say, oh, the deputy president is quiet. Quiet where? This is Machiavelli. This is Nikolai Machiavelli. The narrative should not turn away from there, Miriam, and Karen Joseph. The narrative is there. There are more of Maragas here, spearheaded by LSK chairperson. If you look at the pictures of LSK, 10 women against 1 man on the Central Executive of the Council of the Law Society of Kenya. So that's why they are against women. Harvey is against we. He has selected 10 women on the council of LSK. So you tell me to go happy? So for me, the wider scope, Prof, I've given you hints. You are like me on the show. When I'm not there, hit it. Hit it. We have no regrets here. You think this thing is going back? The man has let the cat out. The cat is here. And the cat will spoil this country. If we don't speak about this, the cat will spoil this country. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Doc. And of course, we shall look at this on our next show under the topic, the wider scheme of regime change by David Maraga and co. That is our Chief Justice. So we shall look at the rest of the, comments there on our next show. But right now, our topic, the other topic that we are supposed to look at, and I'll just go through that very quickly and then we'll just finish.
And before you go through it, I want to thank Ina Hassan. Today, we are thinking on the same wavelength. And thank you for having studied political science. Because now I can see your brain match is almost there. Look, it is a well-orchestrated scheme within and without. George Soros and within the system of Jubilee Party headed by the deputy president. Hakuna kupiga huko na huko. No, not me. Thank you, I've gone. Not me.
All right.
Hiyo kitu, we have killed Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy. I am pained because Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy is gone. We should not beat about the bush. You cannot leave us 23 months to come. And you want us to give you your legacy. Haki ya Mungu. You are killing Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy. Unataka yako ikuwe mzuri. Hapana. Whether in London, where we shall make sure that you also have chaos in your legacy. Yo, wacha leo niseme wazi. After all, even if I don't say they have labeled me Kenyatta, so what can I do? What to do? Mr. Telling me what to do. Even if I keep quiet, they say I'm a sycophant of Kenyatta. I don't know what sycophant does. Sycophant drinks milk. I don't drink milk from President Uhuru Kenyatta. I drank milk since 1955. So I've been called a sycophant, Sindio. So even if I keep quiet, they will call me a sycophant. Even when you tell them my phone is not working and I don't have WhatsApp, they say, tell Uhuru Kenyatta to buy you a phone. So what can I do? Because those who are looking for me on WhatsApp, they can't get me. All the numbers are stored in the clouds. So I'm going to take the cloud and put it back in another phone. Then we can meet later. But you call me a sycophant, call me. But also your legacy, you won't have it peaceful. Wacha tukwambie. If you are going to kill Kenyatta's legacy, na sisi tuwezi kukubali wewe ukuwe na legacy ile mzuri, then let's watch. When President Uhuru Kenyatta first, mnamsumbua. Because mnafikiri ana watu waweze kuzungumza like Natanga. The only thing that I lack is an idea of Kenya. But I don't lack friendship. Wacha tuambiane ukweli. I don't lack friendship. I have good friendship. Even to enemies. Enemies whom I helped, who don't want to help me. This is very emotional. Because you are killing the legacy of this man. He's trying to do what he can. The world is in chaos of COVID-19. Here we are. We are busy sorting out whether Parliament can go or not. Surely, then you want to expect people to give you a free ride. Hakuna haki. Hakuna. We bado ona hiyo. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. So, and speaking of President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy, we know one of the key things on his legacy is the universal health care. So the national government has sought to promote interventions that apply 6 key principles highlighted within the current Kenyan health policy: equity, people-centeredness, participation, sectoralism, efficiency, and social accountability. In addition, the national government expanded service offerings within the country's national health insurance scheme, the National Hospital Insurance Fund, that is NHIF, in order to improve access to healthcare services. And the NHIF is the largest health insurance provider in Kenya, covering about 88.4% of the insured population. So some of the challenges that the universal healthcare has been, incurring or sort of, a stumbling block or sometimes just challenge to its implementations include the large proportion of the population living in extreme poverty and unable to pay the premiums when it comes to the NHIF, large informal sectors whose members are mostly uninsured, and the high dropout rate from insurance schemes, and also poorly funded primary healthcare systems. I think those are just some of the things that have come out, especially during that trial. Remember, there were 4 counties that had been chosen for a trial for the universal healthcare. So I think these are just some of the things that came up during this trial of some of the things that the government has to work on so that this universal healthcare can be indeed a reality and can be effective and enjoyed by Kenyans who so dearly need it. So in order to achieve the universal healthcare by 2030, it will be important for Kenya to raise sufficient revenue to finance health systems, and we see that happening. Even a lot of money that is being allocated during our financial year and during our budget, and also improve the efficiency of revenue utilization. So we have to look at the loopholes, how we lose some of this money is now the scandals at KEMSA. We have to look at that and see the money that is being put to take care of the universal healthcare actually get to do the job that is supposed to be doing, and so that we ensure efficiency in revenue utilization and the money that is being set apart for this purpose. Identify and provide coverage for the very poor, the people who need it, the grandfathers, the grandmothers, the people in the villages, in the slum areas and the informal settlements, and a lot of Kenyans who are struggling, especially, healthcare can be very expensive. So if the government can make a targeted, targeted reach out to particularly this population, I think it will go a long way in ensuring the people who dearly need this service are able to enjoy it, and also reduce the proportion of the population that is underinsured and improve access to quality healthcare in rural areas. And we've seen right now the NHIF usually used to be for the people who were sort of employed, but right now through this product, we've seen a lot of people from the informal sectors, from the Juakali sector, Mama Mboga, any normal Kenyan be able to take this NHIF and so be able to access healthcare service wherever they need it. So I think that we've seen an increase in a lot of Kenyans going and and registering with this, and also the improved access to quality healthcare. That is now the key thing that the government needs to work on. And I think through COVID-19, the underbelly of our very fragile health system was exposed. So I'm hoping the government looked at some of the areas that really needs to work on, because you just don't want to have an NHIF card and, have an access to a health institution. You want to know that when you go there, you're actually going to get the service that you've gone there to look for. You get enough staff there to take care of your health needs. You'll also have the medicine that you need from the same healthcare, not having a note and you're asked to go buy medication somewhere else, because some of the doctors and some of the people who have been given responsibility in this institution, sometimes they even steal this drug. So we have to make sure that as much as we do have an access to this healthcare, but also the quality and the services that Kenyans get when they go to these healthcare facilities is actually something that is of good quality. So that is just some of the things that perhaps if President Uhuru Kenyatta and looked at, and the government looked at in regards to the universal healthcare, this reality can be of a great benefit to a lot of Kenyans who a lot of them have joined the NHIF, and a lot of them have been enjoying, but now there are a few things that needs to be improved to ensure that quality healthcare is assured to a lot of Kenyans, especially from the poor backgrounds. Thank you so much. This has been Good Morning Africa. We shall be back with the People's Court, and we will continue with the conversation of this pronouncement that was made by the Chief Justice, David Maraga. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Dr. David Matanga. Thank you, Karen from Malindi. We shall be back here in the next few minutes. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Bye-bye for now.
must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.